Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now, on with the show.
Hi, welcome back, everybody. This is the Nuff Said podcast, brought to you by the Southgate Media Group at www.southgatemediagroup.com. I am one of your hosts. I am Jittery Jack Wengroski, and with me are...
Robust Rob Southgate.
And the charismatic Charlie Esser.
Oh, good one.
Yes.
All right, so we gathered today, and we may have some people jumping in and jumping out. It's not officially, we're not going to call it a round table, but it is a mid-season recap. We have gotten to the point where Sky and Flowers have transformed, and we talked about the last week's episode. It's the mid-season finale, and they found the alien city underneath San Juan in Puerto Rico.
Right. Hey, Jack, I'm going to interrupt you because we already have our first person jumping in here. Alil, are you there?
I am here.
Hey.
All right.
So it is the, well, I don't know what to call you, Alil. You're the anxious Alil because you got limited time tonight, right?
Yes.
Well, we got Charlie's here and Jack's here. We're all kind of here. We're waiting. We might still see Jonathan. We might still see Phil. So.
All right. Awesome. Cool. So let's keep it rolling. Like I say, they found the city. They took the obelisk down, and it flew out of Flowers' hand and transformed Sky and Flowers into what? And that's one of the things we're going to talk about.
Yeah, well, I want to jump in right away because before we started recording, Charlie and I were chatting a little bit, and Charlie, well, this is such a shocker. Charlie has ideas outside of what we thought it was because we were saying Tigra. Alil, are you still down with that? Are you still thinking Tigra?
Yeah, yes. I'm not going to go into big specifics why, but I do think it's going to be a streamlined version of that character.
Okay, because Charlie, you have a different theory.
Well, yeah. So I was rewatching it and slow motioning it and focusing in on what we actually get to see. And the couple things that jump out at me to suggest that it's not Tigra is that first off, the eyes weren't actually cat's eyes. The pupils are round, not vertical. Second off, I don't really see fur on her. I just see red sort of a reddish orange skin.
But does Tigra have to have fur? Or like
yes,
when
she's a
Tigra,
cat person.
But when she first turns into the cat person, could she maybe not have the fur yet?
I guess so, but it's sort of like if you want to have her develop fur later, it's I mean sure they can make it any way they want to, obviously. But what I'm actually looking at looked a little bit more saurian, more lizard-like. And actually, there are two characters, one an inhuman, one not. The first is an inhuman by the name of Tanaja, who is
okay. Have you guys ever heard of Tanaja?
No.
Yes.
Okay. Just Charlie, right?
Yeah, no, but she's official. She is an inhuman character who was part of a sort of a young Inhumans program that attended the University of Madison, Wisconsin, of all places.
She's a badger.
Yes. And her code name is Archaeopteryx, because she sort of is she's green in the comics, although color alterations are certainly possible. And what struck me about that character with regards to Reina is that Reina is when on comic book resources or actually they were discussing one of the executive producers of Agents of Shield, and speaking about the transformation, she said, "Well, Reina was always a character who was always well put together and was, quite beautiful, and use that to help her with her manipulations. And now she's going to have to adjust to no longer being that, physical beauty." And one of the aspects that I read about with Tanaja was that she was considered beautiful among the Inhumans, as a lizard-like creature, but that
But to
when she
us,
came to
she's
Earth,
kind of ugly.
yeah, she's monstrous. I mean, that's how it
Right.
is.
That's
So
funny
I thought,
because that's what. Just to interrupt for 1 second, like last episode, we talked about that. Is Raina was all excited about this, and then it's like when she starts to come out, it's like those fingers, and you're like, oh man, she shouldn't have gone for this.
well, I mean,
Those fingers were nasty. I'm sorry.
Right.
yeah, but among Inhumans, I mean, the other Inhuman we saw that episode, the third one, has just freaking no eye face, and
Right.
that's
At least she has
way worse
eyes.
than whatever she's got. That's all I'm going to say.
Right.
Yes. Now, also interestingly enough, there is another character who is actually named Reina, who
What?
is
Wait. The character, their code name is Reina, or
well, that's her name. That she is part of a group of lizard people from the Savage Lands. Her name is Reina, Raina, which is different than the way they spell Reina in Agents of Shield, I believe.
okay? How could we possibly miss this though? If there's a character named Reina that transforms into a lizard person, how could we possibly not know that?
Well,
Well, she does.
we also didn't look at we missed Quake. Once she became Quake, you can see the whole Daisy storyline, which includes how Shield was infiltrated and taken over by Hydra. So
Right.
we missed a whole bunch of stuff. So what Charlie's saying makes perfect sense because they took Daisy and Quake and right out of the book. Why wouldn't they take Charlie's Reina and do the same exact thing?
Yeah.
Well, what might be a slight problem with Reina, at least the Savage Lands Reina, is that she may be a mutant. For what?
Well,
Yeah, but
That's
they're
what I was gonna say. That's where I was gonna go with. I think the Savage Land and all that is owned by Fox.
Well, no, the Savage Land wouldn't be. The Savage Land, because the Savage Land, because Kazar first appeared in actual Marvel Comics #1, so it actually predates the mutant storyline. So I don't think that they may be able to Fox. It's maybe one of those things, as actually we were talking about on Superconnectivity the other day, where Marvel says, "Oh, there's these things where sure they can use it, but we can use it as well because it's so entrenched in Marvel lore." The idea being that they can have Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch in the X-Men movies, but we can have them too because they're also Avengers. Because much more of their time has been with the Avengers than has been with the X-Men, and that's a fair argument, I guess. And they
oh, sorry, I was going to say, and they kind of blew off the fact that Daisy wasn't considered a true Inhuman. According, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, in Marvel Comics, she's not an Inhuman. In Marvel Comics, she's just the illegitimate daughter of Mr. Hyde.
Right.
And
right,
so
which we addressed on the show. Mr. Hyde is named Cal, which it all makes sense. Okay, that's where they're leading us. I'm looking at.
But I guess what I was saying is they're not. I don't know that they will go ahead and make those distinctions for us in the show. I think they're lumping them all together. Is my point.
Yeah, I think they're playing kind of fast and loose with some of those things. I don't think, Charlie, I think you're kind of looking at it like, well, this is what it is, and this is how they're doing it, and they might alter it slightly. I think they're saying, hey, we own this character. Like we don't know where the lines truly are drawn. And a character like Reina, I'm looking at her here. Even though it is Savage Land and everything, you're right. It could be one of these characters that could fall into both camps. So, I'm looking at a picture here of Uncanny X-Men. I don't know what number it is, but she's on the cover. Man, it looks a lot like what we saw appear when Raina's thing crumbled.
Yeah. I think, why wouldn't, like I say, why would they go exactly with Sky becoming Daisy, which completely ties in, and not tie Raina in with the other character?
Right.
It doesn't make sense that why would they change that midstream? Although to go back to like my whole Halle Berry thing,
it always comes back to Halle Berry.
If they had made Raina Tigress, she would have been fine. I'm sorry. That would have been like preferable, really, because Tigress had some like 70s like some like hip hugger and things going on. That's all I'm saying. I think it would have been a better way to go.
Well, Tigra isn't necessarily out of the question. I mean, if that was what they were going for, you can easily take the Legend of the Cat People and merge that into the Inhuman storyline as this subgroup of humans that were in the Marvel universe. They were manipulated by sorcery and science, and in this one, it's Kree stuff. But you could make it work within the story if they wanted to do Tigra in that way.
Right.
The main difference, I think, between main problem I think with having Raina be Tigra is that Raina,
she's already ugly.
Well, it's just that her story is already so different from Tigra's. Tigra was always a superhero, was never a supervillain.
Alil, do you agree with that, or are you still saying Tigra?
I saw whiskers. I don't know. I'm looking.
Oh wait, I should turn my cam off. I think that was me.
The long black nails. Yeah, it gives you away.
That's me.
Actually, I mean that's what I'm saying. Is I don't think those are whiskers. What I think you're talking about are these little black. They look like almost eyelashes, but they're sort of below her, sort of right on the socket of the eye, as opposed to on her eyelashes. And I think those are actually possibly spikes. Sort of decorative spikes to go with the scales.
So like those spikes that you've seen on like the X-Men movie, that guy that has all the spikes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, sort of like that. Yeah,
I mean, like a horny toad lizard has those.
Exactly.
Little, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and so that's what I think those are. If we're going with a more lizard-like quality to her persona, and not for nothing, as we say here on the East Coast, not for nothing. If we go along with the idea of your superhumanity is an expression of your internal self, Raina was kind of that cold-blooded lizard-like personality prior to this. She's cold-blooded, she's manipulative, she doesn't really have any care for anyone except for herself and her own moving forward. So she's very lizard brain in that. That
actually makes sense. And the cold-blooded thing and all that does make sense. I wonder, is there something about the flowers, about the flower dress?
Well, again, I think that might go to this. That was what was interesting with the flowers, because of course, as we recall from the dream sequence with Daisy's dream sequence, she's wearing the flower dress in that.
Right.
And I'm wondering if the flowers are meant to be symbolic of the crystals opening up.
Guys, did we even talk about the dream sequence? I can't remember.
I don't think we did. No. In fact,
no, we didn't.
Okay, so what did you guys think that dream sequence was? Like, to me, I thought it was almost literal, other than Coulson and May being her parents. Obviously, they're not her parents, but if they're the ones that rescued her and she was seeing something play out from that time period, maybe it was a little bit more literal than you would assume. I mean, what do you guys think of that?
Oh, I think it was absolutely literal. I think that they found Sky at the scene because they know something that, we can never tell her, but she was the baby that they found. And, they knew that she was some sort of 084, that they didn't know what she was, but she was the daughter of Mr. Hyde. So, they put her somewhere safe, and maybe it was through Raina's eyes, or I don't know, like, what the significance, because I was so concentrating on that, I really didn't catch any confident coincidence with the flower dress.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's nothing there. Maybe that was just a way of, in the beginning, defining the character and saying, "Oh, it's the woman in the flower dress," and adding some mystery there. I mean, that could be too.
Well, we
Yeah.
actually see with flowers that she does have an obsession with flowers, and in fact, I was going
Do
through some
lizards eat
images online.
flowers?
Um, I'm sure they could.
Tigers
I'm
don't.
sure
They're
they're
obligate carnivores, so they would not eat flowers.
yes,
But lizards might.
yes.
I'm an
Well, but
obligate carnivore.
you know,
You're some carnivore.
like I said,
Eh,
I think the flowers, maybe if they have a symbolic quality, it's more about the metamorphosis of a flower, of it opening up, from a bud into
Yeah, right.
something
It
new.
could be all it was.
Into something super
Yeah.
freaky.
Well, yeah. Well, some
Super freak.
flowers.
She's super freaky.
Jack trying to get us sued.
Yes.
Hey, I didn't sing the whole thing. It has to be more than like a few seconds. So.
Well, and it also has to be identifiable, and really
It really wasn't.
That just wasn't.
Yes. No.
Lil could
but-
bust it out though. He's quite the singer. Lil, you've done opera to Super Freaky, haven't you?
I have.
All right.
It's too late in the evening though for me to bust it out. I have to massage my vocal cords.
I think
You
Lil
said
was
vocal
just
cords, right?
Yes.
I think Lil was just speechless.
I think he's rooting around in his vocal cords, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Oh man. Well, for my opinion on that, I just took that dream sequence to kind of foreshadow what was happening.
Yeah,
I
me
think
too.
Sky looks
Although
at.
I'm wondering if it was literal at this point.
Well, I think it's something they're going to
Sorry,
have
Lil,
to.
I cut you off.
No,
It's
that's
going to
okay.
have to. It's going to be something that they are going to have to address, and because they spent a couple episodes telling us how we really need to tell her, and they haven't. So I think it's foreshadowing an element of the story that they're going to cover.
I think that was in relation to the chemical that they had given her and the possible side effects of it. I don't know if that was necessarily them saying, "Oh, we need to tell her about what we know about her origin." We met the people who pulled her out. We met one of the guys who pulled her out of China, and he didn't seem to. And I believe in that scene he was actually talking to May, and I don't believe he implied that May was there. So I don't know if they were actually active. I don't know if they were the agents who pulled her out.
Or they could be representative of two SHIELD agents, but I
think
Yeah.
that's more of a metaphor because she looks at Coulson and May as parental figures.
right now
I don't think that has anything to do with them are the ones who saved her
being-
because that didn't
Right.
happen.
And the age thing probably wouldn't work out so good either.
Right,
But so
yeah.
I agree with you on that, but I do disagree that the information that they had was way before she got the GH one whatever
Yeah, whatever it is.
322 or whatever. But yeah, that information definitely is from her past and the 084.
Yeah.
When they went way back, those things were in the file way before she got shot.
Entirely possible. That also, well, but then again, it also could have just been, who Kelvin Szabo is as Mr. Hyde, and does she really want to know
Now,
that
do you
that's
think we're
what
going to
she's
see him
doing?
change into Hyde?
Well,
I think that
that's
was the biggest problem, is we didn't see him change, so everyone's like, "Oh, of course he's Mr. Hyde," but all he did was like toss Coulson around a little bit. He didn't do anything really like super Hydey.
You know, it
He didn't Hulk out.
it
make him
reminded
Hulk
me-
out.
it reminded me of the Ben Stiller movie where they're all these like the the magic spoon man, and Ben Stiller, like his superpower
Mystery
is that
Men?
Yes.
the mystery men, and like Ben Stiller, all he does is like he gets like really angry, and that's all that I got from Mr. Hyde was like Ben Stiller from Mystery Men. It's like, "Urgh."
Maybe that's who he is. He's the what is that? The Rage or something?
Mr. Furious.
Mr. Furious.
And to defend Mr. Furious, if you will recall, in the final scene when he does come to battle Casanova Frankenstein, he says, anger rising, and which is his sort of catchphrase, and Casanova Frankenstein blows him off. He says, "No, anger is rising," and then he actually does open up on Casanova Frankenstein, who is a high level supervillain in that world. and actually beats him up. And so what we could be seeing with Mr. Hyde here is that he has been juicing himself. And, I'm guessing maybe he's been juicing himself as part of his quest to reunite with his daughter, because he knows that SHIELD, which was operating as Hydra, had taken them. They'd been working with superhumans and may have felt the only way he could stand up to this was by juicing himself, perhaps with the Reinhard super soldier serum that we saw in the Hulk, or perhaps with some gamma technology that we've seen, and that is what has been triggering his rages, and he may not be done yet. And we may get to that point where once he has to let it all go, we actually see him take the formula and he becomes the full-on Mr. Hyde. And then he
so you're thinking it could happen that way? Okay.
Yeah, well, because it's important to remember that Mr. Hyde used to, like, lately when they've been showing Mr. Hyde, he's always Mr. Hyde, and it's sort of like the Hulk, where you at a certain point they just said, well, we're just going to write the story as him as always the Hulk, whereas originally he would transform from Kelvin Zabo into Mr. Hyde and would transform back and forth, and just like the Robert Louis Stevenson's story, he'd have to drink the formula to become Mr. Hyde. And I'm sure they didn't want to go too Heidi on it because they probably didn't want it to look like a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
With good reason.
Yeah, well,
Is anyone else enjoying the fact that Charlie got very serious about Mystery Men and treated it like it was a Marvel film? Like, well, let's talk about Ben Stiller's character for a second. Did anyone else enjoy that as much as I did?
Oh, that was awesome. The fact that he knew it was Casanova Frankenstein,
It's
I was
awesome.
just like A+. That was great. And the fact that I knew what he was talking about, probably more.
That's a rarity.
I know. That's like, I think lightning just struck our house or something. Actually, I was in Rob's house. We were like what you would still consider young, and we're not anymore. But we were like sitting in the bed in his house.
Hey, let's not tell that story.
So
I was gonna
we're
say,
like,
where is this going?
like we're lit. Yeah, it's like his stereo goes out, and his TV goes out. Lightning hits the house.
Yeah.
Nothing gets fried except for like his TV and his stereo.
Yep, my CD player, my first CD player, cooked.
Yeah, it was
My
done.
TV cooked.
We're sitting there like listening to music, and it's just like whoop, and that was that.
Yeah,
So
we stopped
anyway.
holding hands. It was very frightening.
I thought that's when we started holding hands.
No, then we started to cuddle.
Oh yeah. Oh, now I remember.
Oh, gross.
Oh man, here we go.
Here we go. You
See,
actually telling
and
stories,
this-
and I get a little nervous.
Now this is exactly what separates our podcast from all other Marvel podcasts.
It makes you uncomfortable and nobody wants to listen.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just waiting to get back to Marvel. I don't know.
I want to find out what happened next.
You'll have to wait till the mid-season finale is over.
That's right. You'll have to wait till the roundtable in January.
Right.
There you go.
Where we can make Jonathan very uncomfortable with this story.
Oh boy. But getting back to the dream sequence.
Getting back to boy, we need you to keep us on track. A Lil can't do it, so it's got to be you.
Yeah, so getting back to the dream sequence, one of the things that was interesting in there is that I believe that the music box was playing everyone's favorite public domain song, Daisy, which was
how lame was that?
Yeah, well, it was
Daisy. So
yes, and it is honestly, because I wasn't even thinking. I was just so like, oh, really? You're gonna go right into public domain music, and
of course,
that's why Hal sings it too. Because hey, this is free. Let's put this in there, and it's a good thing that it's a good thing that there's a public domain song that's named after Daisy, and Daisy happens to be a key Marvel character.
right.
Wait. Let me write this down. I think that has to be opening music for a podcast. It's public domain, you say?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe Daisy is public domain. Now, I don't know.
Stan Lee is old enough. He might have thought that was still a hit.
I thought you were going to say that Stan Lee is now public domain.
Oh,
I think by law he actually is.
No, Stan Lee
like-
is owned part and parcel by Disney, and
yeah.
they're
So
not
it's like
letting
Mickey
him-
Mouse. They figure out a way to get that going.
Oh, that's
Yeah, well,
sad.
if you saw Big Hero 6, that he's in there, he is now an official Disney character.
Hey man, I'll wear the ears any day, but I am not gonna wear like a Lee scalp. I'm sorry, not gonna work. That's gross.
I
Hey,
Hey.
a
will.
little scalp? Gross.
A Stanley. Yeah, I could just see the souvenir stores at Disney. Mommy, I want one of those. No. So anyway, we were getting back on track, weren't we?
Yes, we were. But so we have our transformations. We have the death of poor Trip, which is
Which I told you so. I told you so. I told you so.
Yeah. So, Alil, are you still sad about Trip's death?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Ouch.
I'm still upset. He was my, I'm gonna be honest. Like this season, like anytime I needed a smile or a laugh in the episode, it was Trips giving it. So
Yeah, it's very
was-
true. It was Trip and Hunter had the 2 lines all the time.
But they really, as a character, they have been ignoring him for quite a while.
Well, they have, and we
Yeah.
we knew that. We were talking about that before. It was like telegraphing his death. I mean, whenever it's like guest starring BJ Britt, I'm like, this dude's dead. It's like you've been on the show like a full season, and
And
you
you're still
still
guest
can't
star.
even get in the credits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so
Yeah, you know what the mid-season like wrap up party that everybody was like all together, like Trip was in the corner like just drinking a beer and
Zima, because we couldn't
Zima.
even get a real beer.
Right.
in a paper bag in the corner.
Zima. Gross.
Hey man, we got this just for you. I hope you feel better.
Well, you never know. Trip may have a twin, and maybe that's why they called him Triplet. Actually, Triplet was his last name.
They're gonna pull a Patton Oswald on.
What if they do the LMD with him? Because Patton Oswald's a clone, but what if he becomes there's LMDs that look like Triplet?
Or what if Triplet was the LMD and then Trip is going to come back from Europe going, "Hey man, I'm back from this assignment. Where's my chick?" And they'd be like, "What do you mean?"
Where's my chick? I'm glad you don't write the dialogue, Jack.
Simmons there.
Dude, yeah, the whole show would just be like a 70s jazz club. and Simmons would like come to work in leg warmers every day.
Okay. Well,
Maybe
Leg
Fitz.
warmers?
Leg warmers. Don't you remember those?
Well, yes, I remember them, but just not something. I guess you're using that.
that
as
wouldn't be my go-to. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I guess as a temporal icon that sets us in time is that she's wearing leg warmers, as opposed to leg warmers being that. Yeah, give me a woman with cloth around her ankles.
That's all I'm looking for. I
Like
think
Jack
maybe
said, he's getting older, so
that's maybe I should shoot higher. I don't know. Wish
Well,
for a
and-
little more, but hey, that's where I'm at. So
did you guys notice we cut Jake off just as he was about to say something about what Fitz was wearing? I think, and I think it was about to get weird here.
No, I was going
It's
with
already
leg.
gotten past that.
I was going to go with leg warmers for Fitz too, but oh well.
Oh no!
I don't think he would like full on know that he was wearing them. That'd be the funny part. I'm sorry,
Or every
Fitz.
time he tries to complain, I sound like Precious Pup. I've got this cough. Every time he tries to complain, he can't quite get it out, and he's like struggling. And they're like, "Oh, you like these leg warmers? No, yeah. Okay, well, we'll keep them on you." Yeah.
Oh boy. So this might be our last episode. All right. So let's see. We've got. So what did you find out about the Daisy character? Because you had a lot of insights about where Raina was going to. Anything have you guys found as far as the Quake character?
Well,
Or
I
have-
think it's definitely Quake. Don't you guys?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, if you go back to Secret Warriors, it does seem like it's following that story path.
So it
Hello?
makes sense.
It does, I think.
So yeah, I'm just curious if we're going to be introduced to more Inhumans and how they're going to do that, and where the tie-in with Age of Ultron now comes in,
Right.
because they've already said that this show is going to tie into Age of Ultron, which I didn't
Okay.
think it was going to happen. But they announced.
Now,
in an
why would you
interview
think
that it
it's not
will.
going to happen? I mean, I think that it's pretty obvious that's the success of the show after Cap 2.
Yeah, didn't
They
we
kinda
just
have
talk
to.
like have a 2-hour discussion about how Spider-Man was never gonna get back to Marvel?
Oh no, it's the Spider-Man sinkhole again.
No, I didn't think I didn't say never, but
No, but I
still
think Charlie did.
Well,
oh, Spider-Man?
what I've been saying about what I've been, and actually, I'm sorry, I actually missed whatever you guys were talking about there.
You know, it is completely
my Skype-
irrelevant. Don't worry about it.
My Skype completely dropped out for a minute there.
You're so lucky.
So with Spider-Man, it's not that it's impossible. It's that the incentives for each side are inherently dis- uh, um, basically Sony doesn't want to go to a Marvel movie unless they need to promote Spider-Man. But if Sony needs to promote Spider-Man,
Which
Marvel
they do.
has, well, yes, but Marvel then has a disincentive to want to promote Spider-Man because the poorer Spider-Man does, the faster Spider-Man comes back to them.
Right.
So
But
for
so how do you explain? They've already. It sounds like they've already started the deal. So
Right.
where do you go from there?
Well, it could be. I mean, so this is how it works. If Sony comes to Disney and says we need some Marvel magic on our Spider-Man because our Spider-Man is dying, then Disney can say, okay, well, here's what we'll do. We get to have Spider-Man back in our universe. We get control of Spider-Man. We're going to make the Spider-Man movies, and you're going to get a cut of that. As opposed to, oh, we'll have Spider-Man swing in the background and you'll get a little promotion and then you can still do whatever you want with him. I don't think Disney's going to let them bring Spider-Man to the table unless Sony is basically giving the creative rights of Spider-Man back and they're just letting Sony then have a cut of the deal. So whether that's on the merchandising, whether that's on whatever, I think that's where that ends up. And so it's a question of, does Sony think that Spider-Man is worth it to hold on to for that piece of a Marvel deal? Essentially, if Spider-Man goes back into the Marvel universe, then Spider-Man becomes part of the Disney Marvel universe, but Sony gets a piece of it, sort of in the way that they have, and they had that deal very early on with. I think because Paramount originally had rights on Iron Man and that because that was the original distributor, and then when Disney took over, they still had to work out rights with Paramount on getting the rights back to Disney.
Well, it wasn't rights; it was distribution. That
Right.
Paramount had.
Distribution, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's easy to get around with, which they did. I mean, they just shared it. They gave them international distribution, and the thing here with Sony is Marvel and Sony actually have a really good relationship, and and same with Disney, they have a good relationship. I mean, most of the soundtracks that have been put out for these Marvel movies have been part of Sony. That hasn't been under Disney's label; it's been under Sony's label.
Right.
They've been throwing each other back and forth. They
That's a really solid point, Alel.
and they renegotiated the toy rights. I mean, and the cartoon rights. I mean, all that came back to Disney because Sony had even the TV rights for Spider-Man and the cartoons because they had the Spectacular Spider-Man, and that's why that cartoon got cut.
Well, let's put it this way. All that happened when Spider-Man was still looking very healthy at Sony.
Well,
so
exactly.
when Spider-Man was healthy at Sony, Disney had an incentive to deal with Sony at strength. Right now, Sony's negotiating from the point of weakness, and as friendly as they are.
Okay, so Charlie, your theory then is Disney isn't going to want to do it because they smell blood in the water. They can maybe get this back without cutting that type of deal. So you've got a little bit different take. The rest of us are looking at it going, it makes perfect sense to make this deal, but you're thinking Disney wants all the marbles.
Yeah, but the thing is Sony, even with Spider-Man being weak at this point, Spider-Man still has a lot of value.
Of course.
They can make an animated movie, which they were looking at. They can do a lot of things. Spider-Man is still a character that can sell.
Right.
And Sony is never going to just give him up. The only way this is going to work is going to be a partnership.
Right.
Which is really kind of what happened. Just to kind of move this along, would you agree that it's really just taking that next step because Sony owns the rights? They're not losing money on the character, but this is a chance. They're not going to develop it. All they've done is redone Spider-Man like 2 or 3 times, and it's the same stuff over and over with different people. Whereas Marvel and Disney are developing this way. Marvel gets what they want. they don't have to negotiate anything. They're getting the character. They'll get to develop it. It breathes new life to Sony. Sony walks away happy because they have fresh meat for their old character.
Right.
Now,
I think you're right, Jack.
do you think that's an acceptable kind of end game for that?
I say let's make the deal. Alil, can you draw these papers up?
Done.
All right. So I want to get back to Quake because we had some really interesting stuff about
That doesn't sound like us.
I know. So I got the wiki for Quake here, and
You might want to see a doctor about that thing.
I know. Hey, brunch. We need a drummer.
No, we don't.
Like the snare. Brunch. And so here it is. Johnson, a superhuman with seismic powers, which is earthquake producing, which they put in parentheses just in case we don't know what that means. Thank you.
What's seismic?
Is the illegitimate daughter of Calvin Zabo, the supervillain known as Mr. Hyde. She, Quake, possesses a level 10 security clearance. Well, that's a little conflict because I think, besides the fact that S.H.I.E.L.D. doesn't exist anymore, she's, maybe a level 5 or 6 at best.
Well,
Okay.
actually, that's an interesting question here because we have at the very well, not the end of it, but sort of halfway through, Coulson says to either Sam or Billy, I'm not quite sure which one it was, but he says to him, if we don't make it out, institute the Theta Protocol.
Right.
And he says, oh, that seems a little extreme. And he says, do it. Now, what is the Theta Protocol? Obviously, it's most likely it is moving S.H.I.E.L.D. forward, perhaps with whatever this side deal Mockingbird is doing or some other group. And it's possible that if Sky comes out as the senior member of the team, if everyone else is sort of underground or whatever,
that leaves her.
Yeah, it leaves Daisy as director of S.H.I.E.L.D.
That's just crazy. When you think about last season, I mean, she was like living in a van.
And
and then the second half of the season, she was getting some basic training. Now all of a sudden, she's kicking butt and possibly director of S.H.I.E.L.D.
So
And
now dig this.
Actually,
there's more because after she was taken under the careful eye of Nick Fury, even after the latter's defection from the agency during the events of the Secret War series, and the other one, the only known agent aside from Fury and the Black Widow, it was from Quake and Fury was Black Widow to have that 10. So you have a tie-in with Black Widow. You have a tie-in with the Secret War. And then that brings Fury into the overthrow of the legitimate government of Latveria, which takes you into the Civil War with the Avengers.
Makes sense.
And more to the point, Daisy Johnson being director of S.H.I.E.L.D. was something that was constantly being commented on. How she was this young person with no experience. Why was she in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D.? It was a constant running gag in that, and it was that, well, this is who Fury picked, and later this is who Captain America picks to be one of his angels, because he did a little item about Cap's angels.
Oh, so we're gonna get like a Charlie's Angels series out of this?
Well, it probably won't work.
Cap will be calling them up. That's right, Angels. I need you to go out and do this for me.
Yeah,
Cap.
So, in her most visible action, Johnson has helped defeat the powerful mutant leader Magneto by introducing a vibration in his brain that made him lose consciousness.
Well, that won't happen.
This was during a three-way confrontation, with the X-Men, Avengers, and the Collective. A power being carried by thousands of mutant energy signatures. Daisy states in this appearance that if she were joined the superhero team, the Avengers, she would adopt the moniker Quake. So then it goes into how the Avengers splintered due to the events of the Civil War. Quake reunites with Fury in disguise, who gives her new orders to recruit the descendants of various villains and heroes to assist him in the threat against the Skrulls and their secret invasion. And
did you just spoil 10 years worth of Marvel movies now?
It's all right here. I'm going through a Fitz moment because all this stuff is coming through Sky. Like when we thought, oh, Sky is like we're all looking at Coulson and Coulson, Fury and Sitwell. Oh no, Sitwell's he's a Hydra agent. Oh crap, and May. Oh my God, it's all about this whole thing is all about Sky.
Well, didn't we always kind of think that was the case, though?
I don't think so. I mean,
I always did. I mean, the way they introduced her and everything, I always thought that she was going to be a huge vital character in this, and that it was essentially going to end up being about her in a lot of ways. And I'm just kind of surprised they're flipping the cards this fast about it being about her.
right.
Well, see, I always took Sky to be the audience surrogate. She was the normal person outside of this super secret world, and sort of who we were meant to identify with. Now they're actually bringing her full and
Yeah, we're not identifying with this.
well, so I guess what I think the next season could be, if they're not going to go the director Daisy route, is it may be about dealing with this superpowered world. Because I mean, one thing we can definitely say is that we're getting a lot more superhumanity in this season of Shield. We're getting a lot more variation in superhumanity, and that was another thing that we noticed, is that there's not just one source of superpowers here. Because,
Right. Well, we said that from the beginning because you have gamma radiation. You now have these crystals. There's soldier serum. I mean, there's lots of different ways this could happen, and lots of different combinations that can happen.
yes, but
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to. I'm speaking of people that are sort of born with powers or have developed powers through unknown origins, and what I'm referencing there is the fact that Absorbing Man could not pick up the obelisk.
Right.
That even though people who theoretically have this something special could pick up the obelisk, his something special is coming from somewhere else.
Right. Well, his something special wasn't an inhuman ability.
Exactly, and that's showing that not only are there this
that
new
makes
group
him a miracle. We own www.marvelmiracles.com and did nothing with it. Thank you.
Yes. Well, they're all miracles in their own way. That's the point. Is that there's many miracles out there and more to come. And one of the things that was suggested is that possibly when
I hope I'm the one that suggested it. Go ahead, Charlie.
when Trip kicked the crystals and released that big cloud of mist that went everywhere, that perhaps that did go everywhere, and that mist actually left and is now transforming people around the globe, and perhaps even setting itself up as like an inhuman virus. And it's going to be this thing where people are turning to stone, and perhaps calling it the Medusa virus. We'll see this when it comes back. That if there is this thing, and then some are coming out with superpowers and some are not, and how and then that can be seen through Daisy's perspective as this human who is being thrust into this world of superhumanity, as more superhumans are starting to appear every day, leading us into Age of Ultron, and then later on Civil War, as we're dealing with the growth of superhumanity. Perhaps.
And that makes sense, because the next item on the list says during Age of Ultron, Daisy Johnson is among the superheroes in the resistance against Ultron. So I think this is setting up the kind of prequel to the movie. I think this is almost going to be this we're seeing right there. What you're talking about is the setup for the Age of Ultron.
And just to give
when did Jack get so smart about this stuff? What happened?
He's on Wikipedia
he's got
right now.
an internet connection in front of him. But along those lines, towards the idea of everything being connected, it makes me wonder if the fact that we start off with Sky, or now Daisy, as a super hacker, if that was something that was planned within the idea of, and when we get to Age of Ultron, and Daisy Johnson is Quake, and we're going to be able to call back on her hacking skills when we go do battle with Ultron. That this could all have been planned out, that just from that very first thing. Obviously, it was all planned out from the very first thing, but in going into Age of Ultron, which shows you perhaps how far thinking they are with everything on this, which is why nothing, no matter how small, that they're doing right now, I think can be ignored, because something more could be coming from all of this, and it certainly seems like something more is always coming from it.
Right. Now here's the next item is where I think a lot of people got this. It says Quake has appeared alongside Tigra, Wonder Woman, and the Vision, and I think people were wanting it to be Tigra because these are the characters that Daisy has been affiliated with. So
Yeah, well, that was in the Ultimates universe, and they were the West Coast Ultimates.
Right.
And they later do battle with the actual Ultimates in the Ultimate universe. I read the same article earlier as well.
Yeah, but
well,
but
instead
Marvel,
of reading it, tell us about it. I mean,
Yes.
what
What were you going to say there?
Well, I was going to say the Marvel Cinematic Universe is taking a lot out of the Ultimate Marvel Universe.
Yes,
I think it's kind of been that perfect balance in between, and that's kind of why I've seen that. And I'm trying to pull up a picture of how Tigra looks in the Ultimate Universe just to see if there's a similarity. And I'm not having any luck here. My computer died and I dropped out. I don't know if you guys noticed.
Yeah, we did.
Like I
Yes.
didn't have it plugged in, so
I thought you were just being like unusually quiet.
Yes, but within that idea of the of the West Coast Avengers, among other things, one of the things that we have with Mockingbird is that because I know there was this issue about what is her side deal, and one of the things that it possibly could be is that just after Secret Invasion, after S.H.I.E.L.D. fell after Secret Invasion, she actually was creating her own sort of ragtag group of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents and other counterterrorism people that she created into what was the acronym WCA, which was a running gag in it, but that's for World Counterterrorism Agency. And so I wonder if that's what her side thing is that she and Mac and some other people are part of this sort of other group of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents that were sort of doing just what Coulson was doing, but not under Fury's auspices. But after S.H.I.E.L.D. fell, they were gathering together people to do what they had to do and fight the good fight.
Because we
kinda
talked about it like, is it sword? What's she doing? But that kind of makes sense that could be what it is.
Yeah, it could be a variation of it, and that it does. Obviously, it has Hunter is not really part of that. And why are they trying to keep Hunter out of that mix?
Well, I'm wondering if part of that might be that one of the people that are part of it is Hawkeye. And we know Hawkeye is supposed to have a more central role in Age of Ultron.
Right.
And that makes me wonder if we're going to have this reveal, perhaps at the end of the season going into Age of Ultron, that's what Mockingbird was working on with this other group of rogue S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, putting together this other group so that when they all get back together to reform S.H.I.E.L.D., that there's already this sort of ongoing thing that's being worked with Hawkeye. And of course, then you have the fact that Hawkeye and Mockingbird are actually a couple now, which, cuts out poor Hunter, but what are you going to do?
Well, but they've been kind of developing that relationship, and it makes more sense, I think, that he's got this loyalty to Lucy Lawless's character, and that somehow that this is part of like something that ties in with her, or maybe she was part of that group and they don't want him to find out for some reason. I mean, because he's got this running thing with Lawless's character that somehow it just seems like there's just has to be some sort of tie in there, and maybe that Lawless was part of that group, and that's one of the things that they want to keep from Hunter.
Yes. Well, there is one other possibility, which is that Mockingbird is actually a Skrull.
No, I don't buy that one.
Well,
I don't buy that
if
one.
you remember the Earth's Mightiest Heroes Marvel cartoon, when they were
now we're in your wheelhouse a little.
That is my wheelhouse.
When they were doing the Secret Invasion storyline, if I'm recalling correctly, Mockingbird was because they couldn't use Spider-Woman for it, they used Mockingbird as the Skrull Queen.
Nah, I'm not buying that one here.
Yeah, neither am I here because they don't own the scrolls. That's been established.
Ah, there you go. Let's talk about
Well,
Spider-Man again.
Well, I don't. Has it been established? Because
Yeah,
that.
Feige said in an interview a long time ago because they were asked why they use the Shatari. Because the Shatari are basically the scroll version of the Ultimate Universe.
So
Mhm.
could she be a Shatari queen?
But and that's the thing, they haven't established that the Shatari can shape change. And there might be out there that Shatari that can or what, but it hasn't been established yet, so I don't know.
Right.
But
Well,
right
the MC
now,
universe, that hasn't been established.
Well,
Although in
maybe
other
maybe just like when they had Sky transform, she was just still her. So maybe Mockingbird transforms and she's still Mockingbird.
I like to
Well,
think that this Mockingbird storyline is none of that. I like to think that the Mockingbird storyline is what you were saying, Charlie, is that it's a rogue group that she's setting up, and it's not even that she's against S.H.I.E.L.D. I think that's where people are getting confused with this, thinking, oh, she's going to be bad or she's turning against S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't think that's it at all. I think she's trying to put together a team because S.H.I.E.L.D. is still in shambles. And maybe she's saying, we need to have a team that does what it needs to do and is a little bit more superpowered than agents normally
not
are.
even, you know what? That's interesting because I like that idea, because when she had that conversation with Coulson, she kept saying, "Well, you're not Fury."
Right.
Fury would always think of, what that number was, for casualties and that. And maybe you're right. Maybe that's why she's going to go and establish her own organization, her own team that can work with S.H.I.E.L.D., but
Right. It's not against
do it
S.H.I.E.L.D.
the old way.
Right. The old way. Yeah, that makes sense to
Because
me.
Coulson's way is not that way. I mean, Coulson, I think, has become more of a character that has sympathy, that has remorse, that shows a more human side than like Nick Fury. Than
Oh yeah, he's
Fury or
definitely different than Fury.
Yeah, and Mockingbird always has an agenda. She's not, really going to feel for these characters. I don't think.
Well,
I don't
yeah,
know. Seems like she felt for Mac. But
Yeah, well, who didn't?
Yeah, I mean that's come
I mean,
on.
Trip. Yeah, who cares about him?
But that's
Well,
the
that-
thing is, she's that. But when she's working, all bets are off. And that's the thing that Hunter kept alluding to is like, dude, I see you doing that stuff, and how can I know that you're not playing me or everyone else? And she's that type of character that when it's time to work, there's not going to be that kind of compassion. So it's entirely possible that they're going to go that direction. Like when May was going behind Coulson's back, we thought May was being a spy, but it turned out that we found out May had a direct line to Fury and was doing reports on Coulson
To
just
protect him. And you know
to
what, Jack?
protect
You
him.
and I talked about that a lot last year when everyone was saying that. You and I did not ever think that she was bad. We thought it's not making sense with this story. And that is something that I think this is why we have so much confidence in what Marvel's doing. When you look back at things, it does make logical sense what's gone on.
It does.
And if something really truly doesn't add up, it's probably not going to be the case. It may not be something obvious that you can figure out, because that's why we're sitting here guessing and pontificating about what's going to go on here. But really, 6 months from now, when we look back at this moment, I think that we're going to go, you know what? It was so clear that this was going on.
Right. And that's what we told ourselves at the end of the May Fury thing.
Right.
It was so. I mean, I think we're at a point now where we can kind of pack this up. We've got the round table coming up. Are there any final thoughts or anything for where maybe a short blurb about where you guys think we're gonna kind of pick up after the Agent Carter series?
I was just going to say, my short blurb is bring on the Agent Carter series. I have been waiting.
Awesome.
It's going to be fantastic.
How about you, Lou?
What I want to add to this is the one thing that I keep waiting for is for them to bring back the now I'm drawing a blank here.
Deathlock?
No, well, Deathlock is one thing. I'm like, where has he been? Because it was such a big part of season 1. I don't think they're just going to let it go.
Well, this season started with him too. That's why it's so weird that he's not there.
Yeah, and all the stuff that Hydra was doing to like Agent 33 and stuff, and how that's going to incorporate back into this series.
Yeah.
Because Whitehall's gone, but Hydra's not.
Well, and it's got to be important. They can't just have it be a plot device that, okay, that was all for the Whitehall storyline and it's going to go away and maybe in a year it's going to come back. No, it's got to be important.
Yeah.
Well, what we have at the very end there is we have 33 sort of coming to Ward, and Ward sort of taking her on as his new follower and his protege, and I can absolutely see them sort of building themselves to try and make a play to take over Hydra. Ward keeps on saying, I'm not a Hydra loyalist, but if we recall, episode 1, and I only know this because I just watched it again recently, when asked what he wants, he says, I want world peace, and which is such a noble thing to say, but we also know that is what Hydra has been working towards, world peace under Hydra's rule. And so I think that's what we're going to see with Ward and Agent 33 and the other followers of Whitehall are now. Ward is going to put himself in a position to have them as his own splinter group of Hydra that he's going to move forward. Perhaps even, if they use Agent 33 to be Viper, sort of him manipulating Agent 33 to be Viper, to be this figurehead of S.H.I.E.L.D. while he's the one pulling her strings.
But doesn't that kind of counter the kind of semi-redemption that they spent so long kind of setting up? Like, Ward's not really bad. It's his brother that made him bad. He got Skye to her father, just like he said he did. He got shot for it. He comes limping away. I think it makes more sense to be like a weird, like a sword kind of competing splinter shield. Like I say on the last time, it's like Spider-Man can't and won't ever work for the cops, but they always show on the doorstep in a nice little package.
Well, no, because the difference between Spider-Man and Ward is that Ward is a sociopath. He is a complete and absolute sociopath. And the thing about being a sociopath is that you do not have human contacts and feelings. You sometimes have emulations of that, and you sometimes want that, but you don't actually feel that. So so for example, his attachment to Skye is about how he wants to have an attachment to Skye, not that he actually has an attachment to Skye. So he would very much like Skye to like him.
Oh, that's an interesting way of putting it.
That's why he brought Skye to her father, because he thought, oh, well, she'll want to meet her father, even though clearly anyone with any senses, her father is Mr. Hyde, and her father is Mr. Hyde. She doesn't want to meet Mr. Hyde. But he's like, nope, there you go.
Now, this is what we do. I'm dating you, and I'm meeting your father.
Exactly,
Yeah.
What a bizarre way to look at it.
I don't necessarily believe that because of what Raina said in what the second to last episode, why they took Skye and why she's still alive, and she dropped it that he's in love with her.
Oh yeah, and you can't be in love with somebody if you're a sociopath. You can maybe you can be in love with the idea of somebody, but he didn't display that.
Yeah, but it could be like Dexter. Dexter would believe he was having emotions and pretend he's having emotions when really when he got down to it, he was like, no, I'm not.
All right.
And it could also be that, yes, there was and this is just to give you a weird little gamer reference. There's this game called Vampire the Masquerade, and and you have these people called ghouls who are your thralls in it. And this was this little side story in their hunter's manual about this biker gang that was the thrall of this one vampire. And then one day they all just decided to kill their vampire master and drink his blood, and go out and hunt down other vampires and kill them and drink their blood. And the idea was that, when you're a thrall, you're supposed to be absolutely in love with this person. And the thing was that, yes, they absolutely loved their master, but at the same time, they were sociopaths. So they loved him, but that didn't prevent them from killing and eating him because they're sociopaths. They saw what was in their best interest and what they wanted. And so that's what they moved forward towards. And with Ward, yes, he absolutely loves Skye, but at the same time, he's not going to let his love interfere with what he has to do or what he feels he needs to do to make her love him. And that's the thing is, if you're a sociopath, you love someone, and then if they don't reciprocate, then you find a way to make them love you. And, it never ends well.
Well,
Yeah.
I think there's elements of that. I think we just kind of agree to disagree in slight variations of it. I think they're going to invest, more to his character just because, they did do some sort of redemption. He's gotten away. They're going to develop some sort of story. So, I think, really kind of it sets something up, and we'll just have to wait to see what it is. So, are there any other last thoughts?
Not for me.
Nope, I'm good.
All right. So, this was the Nuff Said podcast, the mid-season finale wrap-up. And go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. We have sponsors. Click on our links. Rob, you want to talk a little bit about the Twitter links and some of the donation sites?
Actually, I'll tell you probably the biggest thing right now. There's two things. One is we now have a Patreon account for Nuff Said. So if you go to the website, southgatemediagroup.com, go to the Nuff Said podcast. There's a link that says something like it's Patreon. It's support us on Patreon or something, and you can go there and you can. It's different than a regular donation. You can say, I'll give you $1 for every episode you produce, or I'll give you, $25 for every episode you produce. Wouldn't that be nice? Thanks for doing that, Charlie.
So if you donate, what do you
you know what?
get?
Go to the website and read about it, because it's got all sorts of different things. Like we're going to be doing like a bonus episode that's only for Patreon subscribers. I'm sure we will not talk about Spider-Man on that at all.
I'm
Just things like that. So definitely check that out. The other thing I was going to bring up is our Twitter is Nuff Said Pod. Join us there in the conversation. We try to live tweet when the shows are on. We will be live tweeting during Agents of Carter. And my Twitter is @RSouthgate. Alil, why don't you talk about your stuff?
Yep. I also do another show on top of Nuff Said called the League of Geeks, and that's Geeks with a Z. I tweet also with Rob and everybody else at LOGEEKZ. And you can check us out at www.theleagueofgeeks.com. And you can download our show on iTunes, Stitcher, and everywhere else you can find a podcast.
Yeah, rate us and review us, and rate and review League of Geeks too. It helps both of us out quite a bit.
Awesome. Charlie, you got any plugs there?
Well, of course, you can always listen to the Super Connectivity podcast, where I expound
and that's
more
right
depth.
here on the Nuff Said feed. So if you
Yes.
subscribe to Nuff Said, you get Super Connectivity.
Sweet.
Yes, absolutely. And so you get so this week you get twice the Charlie at half the price. So
I want a refund.
And do you have any? Do you have a Twitter or connection or Facebook or anything?
Well, I tweet at Charlie Esser.
Okay.
Because I was the first Charlie Esser to go on there, and luckily I got at Charlie Esser for my Twitter account, and I live tweet Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. every week with everyone else, and we'll sometimes get a little flash in there too.
You mean the show? Please
Rob,
say you mean
Rob.
the show.
Yes.
I was gonna say Rob likes to flash too.
Yeah, that's for my Twitter account. I like to flash. I like to flash. I'm sorry, I didn't get the ad in there.
And
Yes.
I'm at Jay Wengroski at Twitter, and I also do the Blacklist podcast, and you can also find on the website and our Twitter as at Blacklist Pod. And I think that about finishes it all up. I can't get it out, but I'm gonna say that's enough said.
Enough said.
Nuff Said.
Enough said.